Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Entitled People Reddit video. My deadbeat brother crashed my car, and he got a night in jail he won't soon forget. I'm a 21-year-old male, and I have an older brother, Dave, that has always been a jerk to me. There's only a 1-year gap between us, but he liked to beat me up when we were kids, and he always acted like anything that was mine was also his. He was also somewhat the golden child, which made me miserable. So, no surprise, I moved out at 18. My uncle is now a retired police officer, and he took me in after I left home. He even hooked me up with a decommissioned Crown Vic. I absolutely love that car. I don't know why, but Dave hated the fact I had that car. He drove 3 beater cars into the ground while my Crown Vic kept chugging along. Well, after his 3rd beater finally died when he drove it into a pole, he asked to borrow my car. I had a bad feeling and said I wasn't going to do that. He called me entitled and said he needed a car to get to work. I told him to take the bus because I know how he drives and my Crown Vic was off limits. My parents called me after that and told me to just lend him my car. I said, I won't, no matter what they say. I rely on that car and I need it as well since it's my personal transportation. Dave wasn't the only one in the world with a job he needed to get to. My uncle congratulated me for standing up to them and gave me a high five. A few days later, when I got off work, the car wasn't where I parked it. I called my brother's cell, but he didn't pick up. Then I called my parents and asked them if he took my car. They denied it. So I said I was going to call the cops, and then they admitted he'd borrowed it because he needed it. I told them he better bring it back right now or I'll have the police looking for him. My parents called me a jerk and then phoned Dave to bring my car back. Dave showed back up in the parking lot in my car 20 minutes later. I demanded to know how he stole my car, and he held up a set of police Crown Vic keys he'd bought online. Some were made universal. I told him if he ever stole my car again, I'd have him arrested. He then had the audacity to ask for a ride home. I told him he made me wait in the December cold after stealing my car so he could walk. He called me a jackass before I drove away. After that, my uncle installed a tracking device in the car. When Christmas Day came, I was celebrating with family like every year. The roads were cold and icy, so I had to be very careful while driving. By now, you're probably clued in on the title. Yeah, Dave borrowed my car again during the Christmas party. Apparently, he decided he was going to go pick up a friend and figured I wouldn't notice. But I did. I looked out the front window and saw my car was missing. I pulled up the tracking app and saw he was a few miles away. Then I called his cell to yell at him. Everyone in the party saw this and asked what was going on. I said Dave stole my car again. My uncle confirmed it wasn't the first time. Dave told me over the phone to screw off and he'd be back soon. I said he better not have been drinking. He just hung up on me. Well, while I was watching the tracker app, the dot stopped and didn't move for a while. Soon, we got a panicked call from Dave asking for help. He'd crashed the car because he couldn't handle the icy roads, and he wasn't used to driving a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So, we piled in my parents' minivan and followed the tracker. We found Dave by the road and my Crown Vic nose-deep in a snow-filled ditch. My uncle was furious, as it was formerly a car of his department, and I was mad at hell at Dave for stealing my car again. My parents wanted me to let it go, but I said enough was enough. I was going to call the police. Dave begged me not to because he really had been drinking before he set off and would get a DUI. I said he was going to pay me back for my damned car then or I'd sue him. Well, as luck would have it, the police were already aware of the accident and were driving in to check on the scene. Someone else had called them, I guess. My parents tried to say that I was the one driving the car and they were just there to help me. I said that wasn't true, and my uncle backed me up. In fact, one of the cops that was there recognized my uncle and they had a chat. Then they went to Dave and asked to see his license, which I then found out was suspended after he'd crashed his previous car. The police breath tested Dave. He wound up with cuffs slapped on his wrists while my mother was crying and begging the police not to take him away. The officer just said that she and my dad could get arrested too for lying to the police. That shut my parents up. We got back in the minivan. The Christmas party was ended early, and my parents drove me and my uncle home since he rode with me. They didn't say much to either of us the whole drive, and just sped away as soon as we were out of their van. They nearly slipped off the road themselves doing that. My brother was let out of jail the next day, and he looked so scared that he was practically crying. The cops there had roughed him up a bit while talking about prison and the crap they'd seen go on there. Dave had actually pissed himself during that. They let him take a shower. That's when my uncle started cracking up and revealed to us that his friends in the department never filed the DUI and just the charge for the suspended license, which was about a $600 fine. My uncle said he just wanted to teach Dave a lesson, and this would be the one and only time he'd ever get his help. Dave then apologized to me and said he'd pay to have my Crown Vic fixed and would never touch it again. When it got pulled out of the ditch, the front end damage was actually minor. It needs a new front bumper, a headlight, and a grille. The damage was just superficial, thankfully. My parents have pretty much glossed over the whole incident and act like it didn't happen. Dave gave me the extra Crown Vic keys he'd bought online and said this had taught him a lesson he won't soon forget. Why didn't you shovel out my parking spots while you were shoveling yours? So, a bit of backstory to set the stage. I live in a condo in a multi-unit residence. Each unit has 2 assigned parking spots, one right next to the building and the second a ways away in the middle of the lot. One of my downstairs neighbors is an elderly lady with about a 40-year-old son who lives with her. She parks next to the building, he parks in the spot in the center. She's not disabled, but is temporarily using a walker after slipping on some ice. I live by myself, so I just use my one spot near the building and let the second one sit vacant. Today, it snowed. We do have a plow that comes through. However, instead of moving my car, it's actually less disruptive to my life to just brush off my car and shovel the snow into the main thoroughfare for the plow to collect. I work from home, so I rarely drive. While I was out shoveling, this lady comes out and asks if I can clear hers out as well. It's not much extra work, so I'm like, sure, I'll help you out. After clearing my car off and shoveling the snow around her car out into the main area, I start to head back upstairs. She comes out and asks, "Why didn't you finish the job?" I stare at her absently for a good 5 seconds as my brain struggles to process the question before I finally manage, "What job?" She complains that I didn't brush her car off before shoveling her spot out, so if her son brushes the car off, it'll mean there's more snow on the ground. Then she complains that I didn't do any work at all clearing her son's car. And to recap, yes, she said her son brushes the car off. At no point did she indicate she would do any work of any sort, only that her son would. Again, I understand she slipped on some ice, so maybe her butt was sore, but she wasn't disabled. And her son was perfectly capable himself. I know he has a job and drives and such, so why is any of this my concern? I lean on the shovel and stare at her for about 10 seconds before she grows uncomfortable and asks, "Why are you staring at me like that?" I say, "I live alone, own one car, shoveled myself out, and out of the kindness of my heart, cleared out your car so you can get in. You live with an adult son who owns his own vehicle, is perfectly capable of shoveling both himself and yourself out. You're complaining that I didn't do all the work despite having zero stake in your situation, and you don't understand why I might be absolutely gobsmacked by all this? I could see the hamster wheels spinning. Then her face brightens as if she discovered a glaring loophole in some cosmic law that will compel me to do her bidding. But you have that second spot you never use. Why don't you just shovel that out so my son can use it? I say nothing more and continue to lean on my shovel with a deadpan expression. After another few moments, she turns around and wordlessly waddles back indoors. I'd like to think she realized she was acting like an idiot, but at least she recognized that I wasn't going to play ball. So yeah, this is going to be a fun winter, I'll bet. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and click on that notifications bell. I would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.